And then we'll open up for questions.
Big week for us. Finally back home here. We have 5 out of 7 here to finish the league play at home, and start with Montana State, which a couple more good tests. Teams that are doing well in league overall, and it's still certainly here getting back home and having some home practices after a week where we're battling some illness and not really getting much done on the court in preparation terms, and so it's good to kind of get guys start to get back in practice. We should have close to a full roster here, hopefully by Tuesday, Wednesday of guys participating, and so being at home is good for us, and hopefully we can get strong and finish strong here down the stretch.
Saturday's game, was that your worst performance of the year?
Yeah, I mean it was a culmination of a lot of stuff kind of coming to a head, and unfortunately, it was kind of a rough trip. We saw the early warning signs, Monday as the kind of the flu started to ravage through some guys, and then with Weber on Thursday being, a game that we thought we made some significant strides for about 30 minutes of that game. I'll take away that first 10 where we turned the ball over, but on the flip side of that, with no DeCarlo traveling and obviously Ray still being out, we essentially had the 3 starting perimeters and then some significant inexperience behind them, and we rode those guys pretty hard on Thursday, and continued to go light, and I think you saw the fatigue and the sickness and all those stuff kind of come out on Saturday, where we just couldn't get much going. The energy levels watching film was significantly low, and you don't, number one, you don't get to give them 31 points off turnovers, but a lot of those turnovers were just coughing the ball up to the other team, and it was a disappointing performance to say the least, but to say that the signs weren't there for potential of that, especially coming off of what we were dealing with off the court, wasn't a surprise.
When it comes to watching film of a performance like that, is there any benefits of that, or is it one of those things you just kind of watch and then get away with?
No, we've watched this a number of times. Watched on the bus, and we watched it, yesterday. I mean, or those things have to hurt. You have to see that, regardless of conditions and regardless of how you're feeling at that time. The energy and effort that it takes to play better. You have to see the contrast, and for us, I mean, we get those stretches where we just had so many turnovers, and you don't get to do those things, and and I think film is a good teacher for guys, especially when it's things that you can't drill. Some of the things, the mistakes that we're making, you can't drill. You just don't get to do those things and play successful basketball. So from that standpoint, we tried. Some games you push and pull, some you tuck away, but this one we felt like, okay, we need to see this, and we need to see this multiple times and really pinpoint things that are not acceptable.
When it comes to them being hurt and feeling hurt about these losses, do you feel like anyone's getting numb about?
No, that's the one thing we hold on to is it's a locker room that wants to win. There's some passion and fire there, and we got to continue to draw that out. And I think, but there's a difference, and there were times too also in the Idaho State game where guys are going too hard. Instead of staying in their lane and doing your job, they're doing too many times. We get someone trying to make a play that's not there because they're trying too hard. We get down 8 and we're trying to make up 8 points on one play. Well, we can stay the course, and a lot of times when you do that and you press and you dribble into traffic or whatever may be the case, there's those lead to turnovers. Anyway, we saw a lot of that. Probably more so that than necessarily guys not going hard or giving what they have. They gave what they had more times than not, but so much of it is trying to make a home run play where it's not there. And that goes on defense too. I mean, there were times where guys were rotating or trying to go after stuff that isn't isn't for them to go after, and you know that causes for breakdowns. You know, and sometimes trying too hard is not always the best direction.
How do you avoid that? Just extra like going too hard.
Well, with just getting them to focus on doing their job, you know, and a couple of guys it seems that have been ingrained on trying to do way too much. They fly around and they play hard as heck, but at the end of the day, it's this could be done so much easier. You're taking his rotation now. He's scrambling because you took his rotation, and so all those things just lead to a domino effect. And if what the big teacher on film is, just do what you're asked to do, you know, and then we can isolate guys that maybe are late or can't do what they do, but they have to, you know, continue to have faith in each other that he's going to get his job done. I just do my job, everybody's going to be good, instead of, you know, trying to cover up too much.
Is there a lack of trust then with each other, or?
I think no, it was more than I think it's a combination of the lack of experienced guys are afraid to always vocalize and say, no, I got this, and then some of the experienced guys have always maybe just done it a different way. So when in the heat of the battle, when they see something happening, their instant reaction is just to go do it, you know, and they got to battle that you know, that instinct to go cover something that's not theirs. You know what I mean? And so it's more of that than I would say them not trusting each other, because I think this group is, you know, pretty trusting of one another. I just don't think that we would necessarily have those alpha males yet that want to speak up and you know, just say, hey, no, I got this. You know what I mean? You know, it's kind of that's kind of where we're at right now. And that's a characteristic of inexperienced teams, is they don't always want to talk or be assertive on the floor of, this is what I got, this is what you got, let's figure it out.
Now you're new, most of the team is new, but the program itself has dealt with a lot of losing history. Does that like play a part in all of this, do you think?
You know, potentially. You know, you're always correcting habits, and sometimes, you know, some of these things, like when players play so hard because they're trying to, you can almost try to do things too hard to win, and get outside doing just your job. And I think sometimes on teams that lose, that becomes a thing, because individually as competitors, you know, you want to win so bad, and you know, and you get outside of just doing your job, because you end up being, well, I got to cover for this guy, and that's not always the right deal. And you know, and I don't think the culture of losing is here in terms of quitting or a mindset or any of those things. I think the guys that made it through and are part of this program are the guys that, you know, are trying really hard. They're trying really hard, and you know, they're going. But you know, we don't really feel that, you know, of the past, because there is so many new faces. So right here, we're just stuck in this deal right now, where we're not deep enough. We don't have quite the amount of experience we need. You know, you check off a few boxes that are usually poor recipes, but teams like us, when it all starts coming together, usually gets on a roll pretty quick. And you know, I feel like that we're not far from that either.
When it comes to that, like what needs to be done to get on that roll?
I think getting some quality practices. I mean, it's never something that we're going to let be an excuse, but as a coach, we need to get a full deck of cards in practice, and it feels like it's been forever since we've had everybody, you know, which makes it very difficult. You know, you know, we're mixing and matching and coaches stepping in and whatever, just to give us the right kind of numbers, and you don't get what you really want to get. And then we're trying to preserve legs for games and all those type of deals, and I think it's costing us on the front end of learning. and you're really getting that key development. So you can only do so much with individual skill work with individual guys, but I think that'll be the key, and I think we're seeing that. We had majority of the guys went yesterday. The race is coming back around the corner. We're hoping that Ricardo will, be back sometime this week, and now he's all of a sudden, can get a pretty quality 5-5.
When it comes to race, how close is he?
He's pretty close. He did some light work yesterday. He's races he goes 0 to 60 quick. I mean, he wants to be out there, and he's so competitive, and he's part of the heart and soul of the team. And, you knew how tough he was, but we didn't quite realize just how much was ripped out of us when he went down, because he was such a tough kid, and he lost that fiery voice, and a senior has a little more desperation to win. You know what I mean? So when you pulled that out, you lost a significant piece of what we were about, and so his presence alone, being on the floor, is going to be tremendous for us, because he brings a little bit of toughness that we need.
What impact, besides like the shooting and stuff, does he bring?
Well, I mean, he's just such a tough guy. I mean, toughness is one of those things where guys want to be tough, but you almost need a guy on your team to kind of lead the way on what that means, and it gets contagious, and for he's kind of our guy, where he's not going to let you score 3 times. He might follow you the 4th time, but there's going to be a little something extra with it, and he's just got that competitive nature, and we hope that his competitiveness and that fiery attitude will continue to spill out throughout the rest of the roster, but that's his competitive nature is probably his number one characteristic that he has, and that's what we really need. We really need that guy that's not going to be. He's also a veteran, not afraid to speak up, and he's going to, he's got a pretty good awareness of what it takes.
Great.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Coach.
Coach.
Thank you very much.
statement, and we'll open it up for questions.
Yeah. I think in terms of the track team, everything's going pretty well with the throwers, the sprinters, and the distance team. On both sides, we head off to Seattle, and this is the second time we've gone to Seattle, and that's where we need to go, like I've said before, to chase the performances for the middle distance and the distance team. And so it really offers a great opportunity for everyone, and it's going to be nice to see, hopefully, where we are in our training phase, how the athletes are adjusting to the workouts and the system, and then we send the sprinters and the throwers to Albuquerque. That's more of I believe, a kind of a power meet, and so they'll face a lot of the schools in the South, and hopefully that will inspire them, along with their training, to be able to establish some better marks and continue that process for the conference championship and then for the outdoor season. And then so it's looking really good, and I can't believe it's only a couple of weeks away, so it's kind of exciting. And then it's also exciting to begin thinking about the outdoor season, so it's going really well. But in the process, having a young man, Aiden, qualified for the U.S. team for any school, it's really, a feather in their cap. It also speaks to, that there's things happening in the program. And so to have him now, and this is our first U.S. national qualifier, so he'll actually, have to put away Southern Utah's uniform for a couple meets and wear the United States uniform. So, and to have him represent the United States and also represent Southern Utah is really awesome for him. Gaining that international experience, I believe, will help him down the road even more so. We have had people run on national teams and run at the Worlds. Cam Levins, Mike Tate have made those teams, but now it's nice to have one here from the United States.
And what does that just mean for the program in general?
I think it, like I said, I think it speaks, volumes in terms of, things are happening. It's not an easy, it's not easy to make a national team that actually competes on the world stage, and so. For Southern Utah, that's awesome, because if you look at the state of Utah, I mean, there's some pretty big schools here, and we have, the only person competing on a world team, and it happening as often as it has happened over the last few years, I think keeps that movement in the program, which in turn affects recruiting, which in turn, affects the development of the program, which I think puts us on a national stage on a consistent basis, and so. To have a young man here in the southern part of the state, make a world team is pretty awesome.
Aiden, was that your expectation going into this meet?
Yeah, I definitely felt confident. I didn't want to walk away disappointed. Top 5 go to NACAX and top 6 go to Worlds, and it was definitely my goal to be top 6.
So take us through the race.
All right, so it's 4 2K laps. It was in Bend, Oregon, which is about 3,500 feet, so a lot lower than Cedar City, which was nice. But of course, it was really sloppy. They had almost hundreds of volunteers on the course in the weeks prior, clearing snow. So it was very. But by the time we ran, it was pretty torn up. But it was even more torn up by the time the senior men ran. So basically, the first lap, I actually fell on the first lap as we were going through a few rollers, but got back with the group. Second lap was pretty mellow. Third lap, I led a bit. But not out of tactical awareness, just out of circumstance. They let me take the lead, and it was nice to have a clear line of sight. Into the fourth lap, I was also leading a bit, and then up one of the final climbs, I started to lose a bit of contact with the leaders. And at that point, I found myself in fourth, and a Washington athlete, Gavin Parpart, he and I were in 4th and 5th, and at that point, I knew I pretty much had it locked up, and I just needed to not fall, and I was going to go, so I just kept it rolling.
So what were the feelings like, the emotions when you finished fifth?
A lot of gratitude and relief. I haven't really been having a very good indoor season, so I was relieved to have a good race and prove that I can still race well.
So have you thought about the moment of putting on a Team USA jersey?
Yeah, yes and no. I think it'll legitimize the experience. It's nice to have gone, but it'll be nice to finally have the jersey. And just as far as Uganda, there's still some things I need to get in order. I need to get a immunization and apply for a visa. But once I get those things, it'll be a bit more set.
So are you a little stressed out then?
I mean, not too much. I just need to get on it. Like today, there's the deadline is not too short because we leave March 20th, I believe, for Worlds. So just need to get it before then and get the immunization.
Coach, how will this experience help him in the future?
Well, it's like any athlete. I mean, when you compete at a local level, you gain that confidence, dealing with the people around you. But once you step outside of the local level and start moving into the state level, I mean, it changes the whole arena, and how well you deal with that, takes some time. And now to step out of that to a national level and then to a world level, it's a learning process all the way through. You don't just simply go from 0 to 100 overnight, and so it is a process. So this is pretty nice that he's gaining that experience. And it's like some of our other athletes that have experienced this. It just changes their whole attitude about competition, and their confidence level changes. We have a certain team in this conference, that is the national champs, and that they are the national champs. And so when you see Southern Utah run with them, it's like they're not phased, which that was a concern of mine, how we reacted to those, that great team, that great program. And it's like we're just as great, and they go in and they compete against them, and it's not a big deal. I mean, you can imagine having the national champions in your conference, what that can potentially do. And so to be able to not have that happen, I think speaks to what has happened in the past. And I think with and the competition and the level of competition that we're constantly at, and with now Aiden experiencing it, I think it's just one step in the whole process of developing an athlete that can compete under any circumstances.
Were you expecting him to make the team?
Just briefly looking at it, and like he did say, he has been struggling a little in racing, so I knew just getting that experience was going to be good, and to have a Southern Utah athlete run at the Nationals, it was a positive. So I knew it was going to be a win-win situation for us, and to then have him move on now to compete in Florida and then in Africa is like a little bit more than I thought possibly, just considering how he was running. But based on what he was doing in cross country, I knew it was going to be very possible.
Coach, as far as the indoor season's gone, has the team met your expectations so far?
Oh yeah. I mean, to have, when I look at our sprinters and our distance team and what they're doing, we just keep marching forward. I mean, we're adjusting to things and developing, and the level of athlete that we have competing for us, keeps improving. And so, in some cases, I'm quite surprised on how some of the athletes are competing. Some of our young freshmen in the sprints are like crazy running fast, and we hope we can keep that on, because they start training the first day of school, and pretty much, and then they go all the way to June. So to keep them healthy and to keep their heads into it, is something that I count on my assistant coaches doing. And then with the distance team, they're pretty much used to doing 3 seasons, but then again, still keeping them healthy and keeping their heads into it, I think in this sport is the trick. And if you can do that, and you have the level of athlete that we have in the program, you're going to be competitive at the conference, at the regional, and hopefully if you can move on to that national level, you'll be able to be able to gain some positive experience and possibly do some good things.
Aiden, you had mentioned your indoor wasn't as good as you had wanted it so far. Do you feel like that national experience will kind of kickstart your indoor season a little bit?
I don't know. They're two very different disciplines. Like running around in the mud with people in my age group that let me recover up hills is a lot different than running with people that don't have any interests in letting me recover and are gonna go out in 425 and keep it going. So I don't know. My hope is that I can have a good race at conference and contribute and be useful. And if I can contribute and be useful, I'll be pleased.
Doesn't he have a great way of explaining it? It's really good. Awesome. Will you speak for me next time?
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
start with an opening statement, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Looking forward to a new week. 2 tough ones last week that couldn't find a way to get a win, but a great practice yesterday. And Montana State is always a tough road trip, but excited about the challenge ahead and the opportunities that lie ahead. I feel really good about our team and the way they've bounced back and practiced yesterday, and are focused and ready to go and try it again this week.
Coach, what's happening at the end of these games?
You know, I think it's just become one of those mental barriers. We went from preseason being a pretty confident team and having our ups and downs, but learning and gelling and working together, and finding a way, especially on the road. I mean, of our 5 wins in the preseason, 4 of them were on the road, and all but the Utah State one. In the fourth quarter, the other team took the lead or cut it to within 1 or 2, and we found a way to battle and compete and get a win. And I don't know if, there was a number of games at home in Utah Valley, Grand Canyon, that we weren't able to finish it, and then started with Northern Arizona, where they hit a buzzer beater to send it to overtime that should have been one of those games that you win. But for some reason, teams have been able to come here specifically and make big plays and hit big shots. And every time that happens, I think more and more we start to feel a little bit nervous about it. And, oh my gosh, what can we do? And maybe overemphasize how we're going to stop from losing versus let's just go out and do what we've been doing for 3.5 quarters or for 38 minutes, whatever it is. And definitely when you watch the film and you see things, we play a little more tentative in the last couple of minutes, and there could be a million different reasons for it, but that's what our focus was yesterday, and is this week in practice is just competing. And the encouraging thing is that we continue to get better as a team. Just don't have the record to show it, and all it takes is a chance to get into the tournament and make a run, and you have a little bit of success in these next 7 games going up to it. Who knows what can happen in the tournament? So, wish we could put a finger on it specifically. It's exactly this and change it, but it definitely is us believing in ourselves again, having a mentality that we can finish and just going out and doing it.
How's the team morale right now?
Saturday and Sunday were really rough for me personally, and just yesterday morning as we gathered for practice, you could feel that there was a little bit of frustration and disappointment with that. But like I said, yesterday, the athletic director, Jason Biedekofer, came over and a few words for the girls. We talked our morning usual thought of the day and talked about things, and it was kind of nice to see or not, I don't know, but the way the Atlanta Falcons lost the Super Bowl was very similar. I couldn't watch the rest of the game because it just was reliving the whole thing, being on the bench and the nervousness and everything that came up from our game. As you just see them, it's like you just make the plays, and that frustration, even at that level, it can happen. And so we just talked as a team that, hey, Matt Ryan's waking up today is still a winner, still the MVP of the Super Bowl. We're waking up still the best team that Southern Utah has had, and we're going forward and with that belief and shake off whatever it is. Life brings challenges, and our job is to meet them head on, and we had one of our best practices after that. So there's definitely some disappointment and frustration, but unbelievable team chemistry and leadership that has helped us continue to move forward, and there's not at all the feeling of you know, it's been a long season. I can't wait for it to be over, and we have no hope. Which I've been a part of teams that have felt that, and so I appreciate, you know, Whitney and the captains for their ability to buy in and believe and continue to work with it. And so I think, you know, after yesterday's practice, there was a better feel, and we're going into Montana, who hasn't won a game either, and really important for us to go in there with the mindset of we're going to take this game and start our streak and move forward. So right now it still feels pretty good, and I think we're moving in the right direction mentality-wise too.
How have you and the team itself recovered from what happened on Saturday?
Like Coach said, I think Sunday was definitely rough. Saturday night was rough. It was a heartbreaker, definitely. But after listening to Jason yesterday morning and Debbie, I think it just reminded us that we're doing what we need to do. We're working hard. We're progressing, as Coach mentioned. So I think it's as a team, we're just trying to focus on the positives. But like this year for us, it hasn't. Again, like Coach mentioned, it hasn't felt like we have a losing season. I mean, we're in every single game. We have chances to win every single game. So I think for us, it's just focusing on being confident, especially towards the end of the game, and just doing what we need to do, making sure that we're focused on winning instead of not losing.
What did Jason tell you guys?
He just talked about how much he's proud of us and how he supports us. He's been to a lot of our games and a couple of our practices, so I think it's awesome for us to be able to see that support in an athletic director and know that he cares about us as a team. So more than anything, just knowing that we have his support, and he just asked us if there's anything he can do or any way he can help us, and he just really tried to get us motivated that we can do this, you know, that we can come back from this losing streak. So it was great to hear.
Sometimes you, as a team, become pretty compartmentalized of it's just us against the world. And that reminder, I mean, we had unbelievable crowds on Thursday and Saturday, and the energy and how much they were into the game, and, you know, the comments after and seeing them out in the public, and you know, how excited they are for the progress our team is making and how tough they're fighting. I think, you know, Jason also reminded us that, you know, this is not us against the world. There's a great support system and staff, and you know, sometimes when you're 0-11, people stop coming out, and it's encouraging for us to know that the community and staff and university, you know, support, recognize, and appreciate what we're doing, and sometime it's gonna turn and you know, be this rewarding thing for us as a team as well, in the win-loss column. But it was just good to have a perspective of not just focused on the 20 people within our program, that, you know, it's reaching further out, and so there's a great reminder to have that communicated to us.
Anything else? Great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.